Parker, welcome to Beyond the Inbox. Thank you so much for taking the time to join us.
Sam, I'm stoked to be here, and I'm excited to chat today.
Parker, I got to be honest, I struggled to know how to prepare for this interview. You and I were talking in the pre-interview, and you were dropping so many stories that left me hanging, and I really struggled to know what direction to take this conversation.
Hmm.
I think I want to start by asking you quite simply, what is Forage and who is it for?
Yeah, good question. Forage, we make food products, we make food, and our current leading slogan is nutrition for your noggin. So we make like a meal replacement bar, we make a loose bag of granola, and both of those things are fortified with a proprietary mushroom mix that provides essential daily brain nutrients, an excellent source of vitamin D, and then are all made of comprised of whole food ingredients and that are low sugar and roughly low carb.
The mushrooms component is where I want to take this conversation. And I think the best way to run up to it is I want to take you back to 2018. You're spending 80 months trying different diets for 30 days at a time. Tell me about that experience and your experiences with mushrooms, functional mushrooms.
Yeah, yeah. So yeah, I spent 18 months in a row of trying different nutritional regimens or diets, whatever you want to call it, where every single 30 days I did a different nutritional regimen, and one of those slots or one of those months I supplemented with different functional mushrooms that I had been reading about, learning about, and my background's in neuroscience, and I had kind of learned about psychedelic mushrooms in the past. And that month was the month that I felt best. So I kind of got into the research and really felt compelled by a lot of the really neat research in the space and, just didn't realize how many awesome benefits tons of different mushrooms can provide. And felt like there was really a neat use case here for mushrooms to help solve, health concerns that are shared by hundreds of millions of people across the globe.
As someone that doesn't know a lot about mushrooms, what do you think is the gateway benefit into people like myself looking at the brand and saying, hey, this is for me, I want to make a purchase?
Yeah, great call. I think, looking at our brand specifically, and the mushroom mix that we specifically focus on, there's tons of mushrooms, tons of benefits, and that can be part of the challenge is to understand, okay, where to start. Our quote unquote hero mushroom, and maybe you've seen it around is a lion's mane extract. We source it and we partner with the arguably the most well-respected lion's mane producer in the world, Monterey Mushrooms. We get all of our product, all of our finished good tested for basically like the micronutrients that are really important in the mushroom. And what it does is lion's mane to date is the number one synthesizer of neurogrowth hormone in the brain. So what that means is when lion's mane is present and active, and it's really the phytonutrients within this lion's mane mushroom are present, um, your brain is able to produce more neurogrowth factor. And neurogrowth factor is what your neuron cells, your brain cells, or cells of your central nervous system or peripheral nervous system feed on to grow and to prune themselves and to make additional connections. And so when you think about, okay, like, how is your brain growing? What does it need to feed on? Like it needs normal nutrition, of course, but neurogrowth factor, when present, your neural cells are growing at a much more rapid rate.
So you do this 30-day challenge, you experience these benefits. What happens between that time and you starting the company? What was the next step?
Yeah. I went through all these months and, I was reflecting and, I was kind of naturally just continued to do more research on mushrooms. And next thing I know, I joined our local Puget Sound Mycological Society. It's the largest mushroom club in the US. Sat on the board there for 2 years, got into mushroom foraging and, kind of reignited my passion in neuroscience. And, I really wanted to help kind of get these into my own diet really seamlessly. So I started putting them into like an oatmeal and other kind of things that I was already consuming, bringing it into the office, letting people try it. And, next thing I know, I was at a startup conference and an angel investor was like, hey, this is really smart. Like send me your pitch deck. And then, from then on out, I was like, well, I should probably put a brand together and start selling this thing and get this in other people's hands. Like there's clearly interest here.
There are so many fascinating marketing strategies behind the brand. And I think the first one I want you to talk about is what you were telling me in the pre-interview about you driving a branded van and sleeping in grocery store parking lots. Can you talk more on this?
Absolutely. Yeah. I think, COVID happened and there all of a sudden became this influx of everyone's just communicating over email. And then it became really challenging to get a hold of key decision makers over email. And for a brand like ours, who's trying to sell their product in different grocery stores, it became hard. And so we thought, where can we find these people where nobody else is looking? So that encompassed moving back to in person. And I thought, how crazy would it be if I drove, down to California to meet this one buyer? There was one buyer I was trying to meet. And I thought, okay, I've always wanted to live out of a van. Why don't I just buy a pop-up camper van, live out of it, and brand it in Forage marketing, and then drive around the country and literally go sleep in grocery store parking lots and driveways to go meet some of these people. And so I went, drove around the country, opened up a lot of wholesale distribution, so into grocery stores, did a lot of pop-up events, met different online consumers. And it was really a way to kind of stand out, while there was noise on a lot of different channels, right? When everyone zigged, we really tried to zag, if you will. I feel like that's common marketing speak.
How do you scale something like that? Do you have someone doing that for you now? What is the current status of that marketing strategy?
Yeah, yeah, it's definitely not, it's not for the faint of heart. It's not forever. I definitely burnt out. I feel like part of me has some PTSD of sleeping in next to so many grocery store parking lots and being woken up by like the street cleaner. So yeah, I met somebody on the road while living in the van who was super stoked on it. And he also spent several months in the van. He's not currently in the van right now, but now like, we're bringing on an intern this summer, and like part of his role is going to be doing like 3 to 5 day van excursions around, doing pop-up events, checking on stores, et cetera. So it's sort of like I feel like it'll probably become more of a seasonal thing than anything else.
It's very common for a lot of founders to experience this anxiety about bringing a product to the market. And when you tell me a story like that, I think you must have had such a strong vision for the brand for you to make that type of commitment.
Totally. I mean, look, there is no other way to go. Like you have to be all in, you have to be full of belief. And I think as well, like when you go that far, people take note, right? And it's a really great way to gain attention from the right people because, you know, some grocery store buyer or customer may have 1,000 brands in front of them. But if no other brands are literally t- getting rid of their livelihood, right, for a year and driving around and sleeping in these kind of rough conditions, like that stands out to people. I found it kind of laid the groundwork for really great human to human connections.
What were some of those early wins in the beginning?
Yeah, good question. I think early wins, like we were selling locally and saw some like really good traction locally. Kind of some, I would say some early like belief from a couple like angel investors who were able to kind of help us get off the ground and like get in some initial talents, like put a brand together. One of the major retail distributors, they put us in their like emerging brand portfolio, which is only comprised of 10 brands across their entire 10,000 brand portfolio, as they highlight as like their top brands, and we get a lot of exclusivity. And then the other thing was I had kind of a story, and I don't know if we'll touch on here, but I lived out of a tent for 2 years before I moved into the van. And we ran some ads around that, and like people really resonated. That advertisement did super well. And we continued to get awesome feedback on like the product, and people were like, I can't believe you did that to launch this product. And it was what, allowed people to really find our product and try it. So those were some of kind of the early wins off the cuff.
Can you share more on that story? So you were living in a tent. Was that while you were building the brand?
Yeah, yeah. I moved into the tent because I got to a point where I was sleeping on my bed and half of my bed was overtaken by like storage, like boxes of like packaged product or like 50-pound bags of oats. I was like, all right, I need to like have a separate space. And for me, I wasn't going to move this stuff outside and I didn't want to pay anything. So I figured, okay, I've slept in a tent before. Why can't I move outside? And then didn't really have an end date in mind. And so I ended up being out there for 2 years.
I'm on the website now and I can see there is a store locator. Did you start in retail and then move to DTC, or was it the other way around?
We did, interestingly. Yeah, I'm not like a D2C guy, so I got into that a little bit later, but I would say like initial start was in a couple of retailers around Seattle, and then very quickly kind of moved into D2C and then built that out quite a bit. And then, once we had, kind of the van opportunity and we had access to distribution through this big distributor, that's when I hit the road and really kind of started banging on doors, as they say.
I want to dig into some of the other online marketing strategies shortly, but in the meantime, I'm on the website now and I'm wondering, what is the buyer's cycle in terms of a new visitor landing on the website? Do they sign up for emails first? Do they make a first time purchase? Do they sign up for a
Yeah.
subscription? What does that journey look like?
Yeah, I would say, we've worked hard to build out our SEO with our blog. So we get, on average anywhere from 30 to 60,000 unique users to the blog a month. So I think a lot of people start there and learn, and then, through retargeting are coming back. And I want to say average, like, someone's visiting the website, the blog, exiting, coming back, product page, about, right, product page, and then probably purchasing. We typically don't see people subscribing until maybe the second or third purchase. I would say subscription has not been posted themselves more towards like a daily, kind of a daily consumption pattern.
I'm on the blog now and I did have some questions around this. I put the domain in Ahrefs before we started talking, and I saw that you're ranking for so many interesting recipe related keywords. And I wanted to ask you about your content marketing strategy in terms of the blog. So you have some recipes here, and can you speak a little bit more about that?
Yeah, I mean, we are definitely going after long tail keywords. I think when we decided to kind of go down that path, and working with a partner there, and we were doing kind of an exploratory interview like 2 years ago. And for us, it was like, hey, that there aren't like major competitors who have huge footholds in the space around these different mushrooms. Like this is a good place to play, and this is a good place to build. I think, recipes are just one part of that. I would say, they they don't really convert as well as maybe some of the informationals, but they definitely drive more traffic. So it's kind of the balance of getting people there and then being able to retarget versus getting people with more purchase intent.
What are some of the ways you're using email, both email campaigns and email workflows?
Yeah, I would say campaigns like we in the past that has worked well. I would say I've unfortunately fallen out of it as of recently, but we're in scope to pick back up here at actually starting June, so starting tomorrow. Is, we do like a Founders Friday. So, we continue to try and find ways to keep the brand really personal, with personal stories, just of the happenings around the brand, good, bad, and ugly. The campaign flows and, maybe touch a little bit on SMS here is something we've done to kind of keep folks engaged is we put together like a 30-day brain game challenge. And so it is, it can be activated over email. We find most people activate it over SMS. And so it's like we offer it for free with certain purchases. And it's like a daily brain game that is either texted to someone or is emailed to someone. So it's a way to kind of continue that engagement on a daily basis and make the brand a part of their life.
What kind of feedback are you getting? Because it seems to be very hit and miss SMS based on conversations I've had. How is that working for you?
Same. Yeah, I would say somewhat similarly for the brain games, it's positive. Like I think for like genuine, like direct response marketing, like been pretty like nah. Like I think a lot of people who are going to buy anyways, it's like their sales are being attributed to the SMS, but I'm not super, I'm not super compelled that like we're driving a ton of additional revenue that way.
What about when someone has made one purchase? Do you have any automations to upsell them to the subscription? Where does the subscription fit into the customer lifecycle?
Yeah. Yeah. We try and focus on subscription after two purchases. We found like pushing subscription too early can sometimes have like a negative connotation or be perceived more negatively. And so I don't know, we always try and think more long-term with an online customer of saying, okay, we have a higher end product, it's a little bit more niche. This is probably going to be a product that, or at least what we've learned with our granola is that it's a product that a consumer buys. And then they're probably also buying other granola, but they like our granola. And so for us, like we really want them to buy it on their own a couple times and then present them like a softball subscription where it's like, hey, like it looks like you're buying this maybe once a month, once every 6 weeks, you're probably mixing it in with other granola. Like we could just put this on a subscription. You're going to get a discount. It looks like you're buying this way anyways, versus really just trying to like upsell that up front without that knowledge.
I'm on the product page now, and I always love a really strong guarantee. And you have this 30-day clarity commitment, and it's trademarked. Can you tell me more about that?
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's probably a light trademark if I'm being super frank, but I mean, it's still like it's still technically like a legal trademark as stated. But yeah, I mean, we want people to feel comfortable and confident in terms of what we stand for, and we stand for, trying to provide these essential brain nutrients through these products. And so, we've put that out there. We haven't gotten any returns based on that guarantee. We continue to see a lot of really positive reviews about kind of seeing cognitive benefits. Whether again, like trying to be unbiased, like whether that is a placebo effect or real, like we've seen people report that like they do feel differences and they appreciate it in their kind of their daily nutritional regimen, if you will.
I think it's so refreshing to write a satisfaction guarantee that isn't copy and paste. I want to read this out for our listeners. Love your snacks and feel your brain clarity improve in 30 days or 100% of your money back, no strings attached and no exceptions. I love that.
Yeah, we stand to it too.
So I want to move back to some of these marketing strategies. And there's one story that you told me in particular in our pre-interview, and it involves you're floating home on a lake and a potential marketing opportunity that was born out of that. Can you tell me more about that?
Yeah. Are you referencing are you referencing the tours?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. So I feel blessed to blessed to live on a lovely floating home in Seattle. And my roommates primarily have sourced like a cool deal with a tour company who is bringing people through the house. It's going to be like a couple times a day and up to like 650 people a month. And so we're looking at, okay, wouldn't it be cool to drive exposure, for other brands, but also for Forage? So, I'm looking at ways of providing a sample and then like a QR code or a Venmo or an Amazon checkout right there. So, and somebody can like pick up a sample that they're heightened emotionally during the experience. They like the product. They want to feel a part of kind of this person or this person's home that they're in. And so they can purchase the product right there. So we're looking at different ways of engaging with this existing audience that will be coming through my personal home and saying, hey, this entrepreneur lives and or works right here. We're also, and this is maybe for other brand owners, looking at opportunities to include other branded items here as well, and probably local to Seattle would probably make the most sense for Pacific Northwest local, but there's definitely potentially an opportunity here.
One of the things that really stands out to me when I speak to you, Parker, is how inventive and creative your marketing strategies are. And I was thinking to myself before we started recording, how you're able to generate these ideas. Are they coming to you from another source, or are you influenced by anyone in particular? I'm so curious where these ideas are coming from.
Yeah. I probably don't have a great answer. I think I pride myself on doing things differently. So like, for example, today, like, we talked about, or I mentioned I was like hour 63 in a fast. I just decided a week ago that I was going to do that. And part of the reason was actually when my roommates did it like 2 weeks ago, but I was thinking, why is that? Like my initial reaction to that was like, whoa, that's crazy. And then I'm like, okay, why do I believe that? And so I think the constant mentality of trying to try different or new things or put myself outside the box lends itself towards thinking like that, of saying, okay, I don't just want to go into the same Facebook paid ad black box that everybody else is in, right? It's like, how can you get to people in a more authentic, also more cost efficient way, probably with higher conversion rate, right? And I think that again is going like, where is nobody else going? And how can you be unique in crafting those different exit strategies?
What are some limiting beliefs that you have overcome in the last couple of years around entrepreneurship?
It's a good question. Limiting beliefs. I think it isn't quite a limiting belief, but something that I always find myself believing and then need to check myself on is I don't think I'm ever actually thinking big enough, right? Or long term enough. So I think it comes from a limiting belief of like, oh, okay, like you're living this right now, but this is like like this is going to fail or this is fake or, I think it's the classic, what's it called? Like the bias where you don't, for a fallacy where you don't think you're supposed to belong. Right.
Sure.
And so I always wish like I would think more longer term or bigger. I think the other limiting belief is just around like your capability and skill sets you don't understand, right? I think when you don't understand it, you think it's like really hard or super technical or you can't do it. And I think oftentimes like I need to check myself and say, okay, like let's just take the first step in learning Adobe Illustrator so I can, just make some of these changes on my own, right? And it took me forever to take that first step because I thought it was going to be so technically challenging. And then I'm pretty like proficient on Adobe Illustrator now, right? And after like maybe 10 hours of onboarding over 6 months.
Yeah. There's so many directions I could take that, but I'm mindful of time. I did want to ask you about where you see brand in the next 5 years. Do you want this to be a 9-figure brand? Do you want to keep it small? Do you want to keep it... Where do you see it going?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think I'd love to build up to like a nice profitable brand, probably, 6, 7 figures. And then determine what to do there. I don't think this is my forever brand. I don't think I'm going to sit here forever. But I'd love to see it exist in a sustainable fashion, whether I'm involved or not. I think, ideally we could get it to a nice profitable place. Let's call it like 10 million top line, and then largely step away and bring in like an operator, who's there running the business, and I can still be involved as needed or as wanted. But then, have space to kind of work on other projects.
I meant to ask earlier, how many on the team right now?
Yeah. We have a team of like really like 3.5. So it's myself, Amy runs operations and really holds down the back end. She's awesome. Jared is still kind of running around sales for us, quite a bit. And then we work with a part-time food scientist who helps us with product innovation.
I wanted to ask you a question around working with a VA, and you told me in our pre-interview that you have had a VA reaching out to people that you might be able to talk to on podcasts. And I wanted to ask you, do you think that is a good marketing strategy for founders that are looking to build their brand and grow their visibility?
Yeah, I think it can be. I think, you first have to be living a life or doing things that are worth writing about or talking about, right? So I come back to like living in the tent for 2 years, or living on the road. Like, yes, they're good ways to attract attention in the immediacy, but they also become cool stories to share, right? And promote and things to remember you by. So I think there is also an angle of that where, not every founder wants to be out there doing wild things to be talked about. And I think that's totally fair. But I don't think like making, and trying to build awareness through podcasts and whatnot is for everyone.
I love to ask founders about community. And I'm curious, what does community mean to you and how do you leverage it in your marketing?
Yeah. I think community is where people within the community that are not organizing the community are engaging in a meaningful and frequent, in a meaningful way on a frequent basis. For us, we've looked at this. I think, I feel like we went through like a community situation in like 2022, maybe 2021, where everyone was talking about community. And for us, we really wanted to think of ways that like we could build a real community and a real tie to the brand that would feel authentic and personalized. So part of our branding are these like fun little creatures, called them foragers. They're like little blob-like characters. They're all individual, and all the ones that you see on any packaging, online, on any merchandise, are all real customers that have built their own personal foragers. So, part of the way that we leverage that is that we like want our customers to like our products, and then they can build a forager for free. And then their forager can become part of the brand, and show up in different places, and it enables them to get a discount on products. But in that sense, like a person really becomes a part of the brand and holds a special tie where we can point to their exact forager and say like, that is your forager, right? And that is what you designed, rather, right? You can pick color, you can pick several options to actually design like a personal branded forager.
I love that. I love how you involve customers, and I think it is a whole new level of personalization that I never considered before.
Oh, thanks. Appreciate that.
we talked a little bit about vision, and I'm curious, what are the obstacles that are standing in the way, and how are you planning on overcoming those obstacles as you move towards where you want to be?
Yeah, I mean, growth is such an interesting thing to look at, right? Like fast-paced growth, it just requires capital, and in the market right now, it's challenging. Like these next 12 months are going to be brutal. I've been reading like daily stories on LinkedIn of like brands going under, partners of brands going under, like a brand spending like $40,000 on this marketing partnership or something, and then the marketing partner going under and not giving their money back because that's. Um, so I think for us, it's looking at growth through different channels that are more profitable and that are more cash flow positive in kind of the earlier stages. So there's definitely been a shift in strategy around like how we're going to market and where we're putting dollars and trying to look towards longevity rather than growth in the short term.
Well, Parker, I said to you when you and I first spoke that you are quite possibly one of the most interesting people I've ever spoken to. And this conversation has been enlightening, and I've learned so much speaking to you. Where can our listeners go to learn more about Forage?
Yeah, forage.co, our website, so forij.co. I'm super active on LinkedIn. We're on kind of normal socials, but I wouldn't say that that's like a huge area of uniqueness. So I feel like, LinkedIn for me, if you look me up, give me a follow, connect with me. And then our website's a good place to find more information about our products and our brand and really what we're doing.
Perfect. Well, we will put all the links in the show notes, and I want to thank you again for taking the time to join us today, Parker, and all the best with everything, and good luck with the fasting as well.
Yeah, thanks, Sam. It's really nice to connect again, man.